So, lads, Alyssa Thomas, in what is a annoying but unsurprising situation, has completely exposed Stephanie White and has completely exposed a lot of the things that, people that are the Stephanie White detractors have said about her. And I will always stand by this.
When the Indiana Fever arrived in Phoenix, they believed they were battling for a spot in the playoffs. Instead, they were treated to a public roasting by none other than Alyssa Thomas. This wasn't your typical post-game soundbite, I assure you. This was a phrase along the lines of, "I've known this coach too long, and I'm about to air it out." Stephanie White must have been furious, since it's not a scouting report when one of your former players goes on public essentially stating that we knew exactly what you were going to do. It's a complete expose. Let's go back a bit. Once more, the Fever lost. Isn't that shocking? Against the Mercury, fans who were already sick of White's rehashed Connecticut Sun-off offense had to watch their squad collapse like a flimsy tent. It wasn't simply a loss, either. The type of loss where the justifications are no longer valid. There is no Caitlin Clark on the floor. There is no Sophie Cunningham available. Yes. However, Alyssa Thomas was correct. The league as a whole is aware of the schemes, hence they are ineffective.
As I said earlier, we know everything they're trying to run. So we just form a game plan around that. And we know they're a team that likes to get to the free throw line. And our goal is just to limit second chance opportunities and just contest about that.
Consider that. The Indiana Fever's coach is using a playbook that is so antiquated and cliched that her former players can predict the entire strategy before the ball is even tipped. With a triple-double of 23 points, 9 assists, and 9 rebounds, Alyssa said nonchalantly, "Yeah, this isn't even hard." "We already know what's coming," she added with the assurance of someone who has read the newspaper for the next day.
Defense, offense, you guys might have heard it because it's really low. But defense, offense, it's all the same. We know everything they're about to do. We know everything they're about to do.
This is when things become even more messy. For Alyssa Thomas, Stephanie White is more than simply a coach. As a former coach, she is said to be aware of her advantages and disadvantages. And what takes place? Like a magician exposing the tricks of another magician on stage, Alyssa completely exposes her. Gamesmanship is not what that is. It's shame. Online fans also didn't skip a beat. The response came instantly. When the opposing team literally knows the entire script, how are we supposed to compete? Excellent query. When your head coach is using a cut-and-paste method that the opposition has been doing for years, you simply cannot compete. Where are the adjustments that White attempted to sell the Fever on? There aren't, Alyssa clarified.
Huge advantage. I mean, like you said, we played, 2 years? Everything's pretty much the same. So defense, offense, we know everything they're about to do.
And Dana Bonner comes next. Yes, exactly. Bonner and Caitlin Clark had a wonderful conversation.
This is the biggest reason why Stephanie White, I think, has been such a success with the Indiana Fever, because they're playing Connecticut Sun basketball. Stephanie White is good at dragging teams down to her level. And you might have said, oh, but what about the game? And I do think that 1,000,000% Alyssa Thomas is a front runner. I think Alyssa Thomas is a front runner. She literally set her career high and didn't even go in for the press conference because Stephanie White beat her. And the difference is the reason why the Fever won that game was nothing to do with their sets and their offense. It was everything to do with Ari McDonald just going head down straight to the basket. And Nate Tibbetts willing to let Ari McDonald drop 30.
Imagine it. Caitlin is asking Bonner to stroll down the court with her tall, agenda-driven self. Towering over Clark, Bonner tries to frighten him by jawing back. Caitlin, however, doesn't give up. Not a single inch. Fans of Moxie Fever signed up for that kind of event. Under White's leadership, however, it is squandered because Clark's firepower is trapped in a system that everyone has committed to memory. Let's be honest. This goes beyond a single game. This concerns a coach who appears to be totally out of depth. Despite having a far superior lineup on paper, Stephanie White has won exactly one more game than Christie's sides did the previous season. Another game.
Take a moment to process that.
White was marketed to us as the improvement, the steady hand, the one who would elevate Lexi Hall, Kelsey Mitchell, Aaliyah Boston, and Caitlin Clark. Rather, the Fever appeared to be a clone of the team from the previous year. The players' frustration is also evident. To see what's going on, you don't need a coaching license. Last year's Rookie of the Year, Aaliyah Boston, appears disoriented half the time. She isn't getting layups. Her difficulties are being compared to Angel Ree by fans. Angel is hitting more of hers, so that's unfair to her as well. This is essentially what Alyssa Thomas says. We know everything they're about to do. Boston's regression can be explained by it. The defenses shut it down since they know exactly where she's heading and how White will utilize her. Kelsey Mitchell, meanwhile, stealthily concedes 29 points. Good stats, don't you think?
Here's the issue, though.
Her arguments don't seem very compelling. They don't change the pace.
Games are not closed by them.
Mitchell isn't solely to blame. Her scoring bursts aren't maximized on that system. Lexi Hall threw herself into it, demonstrating once more why she is the only player on this team who regularly makes shots when they count.
And you see Caitlin Clark to the right behind the coach coming out and jawing it.
The sarcasm then starts to right itself. Alyssa Thomas made no effort to conceal the fact that Stephanie White has been outcoached so completely. Simply put, no cliches or coded language. Everything they're going to do is known to us. Honesty like that cannot be purchased. Alyssa revealed more than merely White's strategy. The whole illusion that this coaching staff has been creating throughout the season was revealed by her. Here, consider the wider picture. The Fever are choking just as they are trying to secure a postseason berth. They have won 4 of their past 10 games. The Storm and Sparks suffered the same number of losses. 1 game back, the LA Sparks are, incidentally, breathing down their necks. Even they're laughing now, Chicago, even though they're hot garbage. It won't be due to injuries if the temperature goes away right away. It will be due to a coach who is unwilling to change. Furthermore, this criticism is not particularly new. All season, fans have been criticizing it. The focus on ISO ball when Clark isn't even playing, the soon-steal offense, and the absence of defensive adjustments. However, Alyssa Thomas simply confirmed each and every grievance. She validated what fans had already surmised. White is recycling instead of adapting. The conflict of interest is the real kicker. Dana Bonner and Alyssa Thomas are more than simply rivals. They are, let's face it, White's favorite players from her past. When they play one another, keep an eye on White from the sidelines. Is it a coach that is devoted to her current team and would stop at nothing to keep them there? Or does it appear to be a person caught between the past and the present? Someone who finds it impossible to keep work obligations and personal relationships apart. You are not required to respond. It was already in Alyssa's words. The media was also quiet. Completely quiet. No accountability, no challenging questions during press briefings, nothing. It seems as though the entire league is avoiding the obvious. A team led by Stephanie White is readable by all, much like a children's book. Additionally, no one in the media is criticizing it. That's why Alyssa's remark is so powerful. What reporters won't say, she said. She said what every game's supporters yell. With the authority of someone who has been inside, she said it. This is the part that hurts the most. Who even knows if Caitlin Clark won't return this season? And let's face it, who knows? White is partially to blame. Because there's no need to rush back when your best player doesn't trust the system and doesn't see the sense in risking her health for a strategy that opponents have committed to memory. When she's ready, Clark will come back. She's probably thinking, do I really want to jump back into this mess before next year? As she watches this coaching disaster. Most likely, the answer is no. And that makes sense. It's not merely conjecture. White hasn't demonstrated that she can utilize her players' abilities, protect them, or make quick adjustments. Furthermore, it's more than just a warning sign when your rivals are publicly mocking your plans. A fire alarm is that. Let's just say what it is. Stephanie White is in a state of panic. The facade is now disintegrating after Alyssa Thomas revealed the nefarious purpose. The Fever can no longer be concealed by wounds. They are unable to make excuses. The only real evidence against them is that one of their own coach's former players revealed them. The part that makes Fever supporters grit their teeth is right here. What Alyssa Thomas said. We know everything they're about to do. She was telling the truth. Listen to the tape. The Mercury knew when to force Kelsey Mitchell to take tough looks, when to sag off Odyssey Sims, and when to double Boston. They had not responded. They were waiting. When your system is so dependable that your former players can operate it while they sleep, that is what happens. Stephanie White pledged to make changes. What were we able to observe? Defenses have been feasting on the same post entries, the same telegraphed pick and rolls, and the same lifeless half-court sets for weeks. Alyssa Thomas did more than simply point out a weakness. She revealed this team's whole genetic makeup. And the rest of the league pays attention when a seasoned player like her speaks so honestly. You're fooling yourself if you believe that coaches don't cut out that remark and post it on the locker room board. This is a cruel irony. Caitlin Clark's adaptability was expected to be the foundation of the Fever's strategy. She has the ability to draw double teams, break down defenses, pass in traffic, and shoot from the logo. But if the coach pushes her into a strict plan that the defense is already aware of, what good is having that skill set? White is only putting a superstar into a dysfunctional system, even if Clark comes back, if she doesn't change. That isn't coaching. It's malpractice. You can sense panic seeping from White's sideline manner, so let's talk about it now. Panic is more than just a fear of failure. Knowing you've been exposed and being unable to respond is what causes panic. Pay attention to her body language. She wasn't changing sets or matchups when the Mercury went on streaks. With her arms folded, she was pacing and observing as though she were a spectator. Her assistant, Austin Kelly, appeared more involved. That picture is damning. And who else sees it, do you know? The sportsmen and players are able to sense when their coach is running out of ideas. Aaliyah Boston doesn't believe in the plan, as evidenced by her hunched shoulders following yet another missed layup. Kelsey Mitchell is aware that her points won't change the outcome, as evidenced by her empty scoring runs. How long before Lexi Hall begins to question whether her clutch shots are even important? She is still fighting. The locker room may disintegrate if players believe the coach is clueless. This is the point at which Alyssa Thomas's remarks were most poignant. She wasn't merely discussing XS and OS. She was referring to the connections which were more significant. She was direct in her statement. Everything they're going to do is known to us.
Why?
Since coaching Thomas and Bonner, White hasn't changed. She is operating with the same strategy, the same inclinations, and the same mindset. The WNBA is a quick league. You're in trouble if you're coaching 2024 games with a 2019 mentality. And Alyssa ensured that everyone was aware of it. It also draws attention to an issue that fans cannot overlook: loyalty. How difficult is it for White to coach against players she still loves? Even as they break up her team, you can see her smile as she talks about Bonner and Thomas. That's nostalgia, not rivalry. Additionally, playoff games are not won by nostalgia. They're lost. How much longer do we tolerate this? Is the obvious question that Fever supporters are left to ask. One poor night isn't the point here. It has to do with a trend. This season, White has been exposed several times. Teams are skilled at tricking her into mismatches. They are skilled at taking advantage of her reluctance to alter the game in-game. Her former players have now unequivocally attested to it. That isn't conjecture. That is evidence. This loss is not the only consequence of Alyssa's remarks. It draws attention to the front office of the Fever. Are they brave enough to acknowledge that they made a mistake in hiring the coach? Or will they step up their efforts in the hopes that Clark's eventual return papers would slip between the cracks? To be clear, Caitlin Clark is a player who transcends generations, but she is powerless to save a team from poor coaching. Predictability cannot be magically eliminated by her. No matter how many threes she removes from the logo, Clark will continue to run into walls if White doesn't change. The playoff picture comes next. The Fever are struggling to stay relevant at 21-20. Not having 4 victories in their last 10 games is postseason momentum. The spiral is one of death. Sparks are beginning to appear. There is a continuous storm. And in a game of do or die, the Fever appear to be the team that everyone wants to play.
Why?
Since they're the most straightforward to scout. It was spoken by Alyssa. Before anything occurs, you are aware of what is about to happen. Any opponent would be thrilled to hear that. This is where things start to get interesting, though. If this keeps up, what happens during the offseason? Imagine being Caitlin Clark, witnessing your rookie year being ruined by a system that everyone finds ridiculous, and then hearing the words, "Don't worry, we're running it back." That would be a nightmare. Superstars leave teams with unyielding coaches. They avoid wasting their best years in systems that limit their abilities. The Fever run the danger of offending the player on whom their entire future depends if they don't make the right decision. It's not as though White is unaware of this. It's evident in the way she sidesteps inquiries about her injuries, how she skirts Clark's standing, and how she makes an effort to put more emphasis on competition and effort. A coach who is out of answers said those things. Fans don't believe it. They desire openness. Evolution is what they desire. Rather, they are receiving justifications and a transparent system. Stephanie White is indeed in a panic. Alyssa Thomas just tore off the mask and exposed the league's problems, not because the Fever lost another game or because injuries are mounting. The same bland plan is repeated until even casual fans can shout out the setups from their couches. No changes, no evolution. Furthermore, it is not only embarrassing but also lethal when your former player exposes your private affairs.